The Paper Files podcast is brought to you by the Wisconsin Paper Council. The Wisconsin Paper Council is the premier trade association which advocates for Wisconsin's paper, pulp, and forestry industries before state and federal elected officials and regulators. The WPC also works to educate the general public and the media about the importance of paper, pulp, and forestry production in Wisconsin and throughout the Midwest. Welcome to our first episode of the Wisconsin Paper Council's podcast, The Paper Files, where we explore the pulp and paper industry here in Wisconsin. I'm Michaela Chafin, the Research and Development Analyst here at WPC. Joining me to discuss Ahlstrom's From Plastic to Purpose campaign is Addie Teeters, Head of Marketing Communications and Public Affairs at Ahlstrom, and Zach Limecooler, Vice President of New Business Development. Thank you for joining us today. Ahlstrom is a global company. You have plants all around the world, but you also have facilities right here in Wisconsin, one of the top paper and pulp manufacturing states. For those listening who aren't as familiar with your company or even with the pulp and paper industry, can you describe some of the products that Ahlstrom produces here in Wisconsin?
Absolutely. You're right, Michaela. Ahlstrom is a global company where we're really represented in 13 different countries. We have almost 40 manufacturing plants with 7,000 employees across the globe. So we really are making a global impact in creating sustainable solutions for the world with fiber-based packaging and a lot of other different materials. But right here in the state of Wisconsin, we employ almost 2,000 employees, and we have 4 manufacturing plants in Rhinelander, Mosinee, De Pere, and Kaukauna. So our footprint here in Wisconsin in the specialty paper business is really strong, and we're very passionate about that impact that we're making in the industry and just in the forest products world here in the Midwest.
Thank you. And you mentioned fiber-based products, and I think that's going to be a big topic for today. For those who don't really understand the concept, could you describe a bit more what fiber-based products are?
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, so I think when we say fiber-based products, we're speaking mainly of paper materials, materials that we're using fibers to innovate and put together in different structures. So paper, other materials that are not necessarily paper in construction. So materials that could be non-woven, wet laid, even spun from sustainable materials, and using those to incorporate into products which fit our purpose and meet the sustainability goals of the company. So we do that in a lot of different ways. One of the big initiatives that we are working on today is Plastic to Purpose, which is an opportunity for us to continue to look at the role that sustainable fiber solutions can play in the flexible packaging market and different applications there to really drive towards sustainability and delivering value and sustainability to the applications we serve and to our customers, suppliers, partners, really working collaboratively across that supply chain to bring those solutions to market.
Thank you for going into that. And Ahlstrom's efforts to connect with the public and consumers has been so impressive to watch. And it seems that there's a real desire to communicate to consumers that the paper industry is on the cutting edge of sustainability, environmental issues, technological innovations. All these efforts are so important to us nowadays. And what is that motivating factor that is pushing Ahlstrom and even the pulp and paper industry as a whole towards making those connections with consumers and continuously improving?
Well, the whole supply chain really needs to be involved in this conversation about how are we going to make some very intentional decisions in order to improve the world we're living in. What kind of impact can we make in terms of climate change? What can we do to reduce our footprint? And we really have the opportunity to do that through sustainable packaging. But the conversation has to be had at all levels. So Ahlstrom is really at the beginning of the supply chain. Right here in Wisconsin, we are working specifically with our loggers and our landowners in the forest products industry to make sure that we are doing sustainable forestry and procuring really sustainable raw materials. But then we are working with converters, we are working with packaging engineers, and we are working all the way to the brand owners. So I think it's a twofold conversation that we have to have across the supply chain in order to manufacture these products and have the strong pull through. But we also really have to educate consumers on What are they purchasing, and how do those decisions affect, the world around them, from landfilling to, are you choosing a recyclable or compostable option? And what kind of small changes can you make as a consumer in order to make those step changes towards a more positive end of life story for that packaging?
And I think also from the paper industry side of things, this is an excellent opportunity for the industry to deliver very current, very strategic, sustainable developments and innovation back to the markets we have traditionally served. So the industry has had a rough maybe 20 years at times with digitalization and the challenges that it brought to the industry. This is a really great opportunity for the paper industry to use that strong technical background that we have, the chemical engineering and the other skill sets that are inherent in the industry, and really bring those to the forefront to create these new solutions for the market. Really, the next wave of sustainable products are likely going to be fiber-based. They're going to be materials that are renewable and sustainable in nature, and paper is a great way to do that, and creates a whole new relevancy for the industry.
Thank you. And one of the ways that Ahlstrom made an effort last year to connect with the public was by submitting to our sustainability report, which was Wisconsin Paper Council's effort to connect with the public and policymakers to tell more about the sustainability story in Wisconsin. And one of the things mentioned in your article submission was the From Plastic to Purpose campaign, and you touched on it briefly, but one of the interesting things that I found through looking at it on the internet is that it's not like a typical ad or anything like that you would see from a company. It's spreading valuable information on fiber-based products. You're building partnerships, and you even have a webinar series. So what are you hoping to achieve from this campaign? What is From Plastic to Purpose's main goals?
I think what we're doing is first of all, we wanted to kind of speak to the market in a way that, there's a lot of times you hear the term a war on plastic, you hear this attack on plastic, and that's really not what we are talking about here. We're looking at ways to create purpose in what we're doing, to create purpose in the materials we're producing, and create those partnerships with that shared purpose with people and suppliers and customers that have that same goal we do, and really connect and collaborate on a level that allows, as Addie mentioned before, the full supply chain to be brought into that discussion. If you look at what's going on in the packaging world right now, there is a extreme amount of innovation, a lot of very, very exciting new developments and new technologies that are coming to the forefront. And those are all done by and large with some sort of a partnership, with some sort of a collaboration between brand owner, converter, producer, supplier, to bring those to market, because they're so new and they're so cutting edge that it's a really exciting time. So the campaign and the message we're really trying to get out is to engage, is to come in to the supply chain, sit at a table with all the people and all the parts, and really let's see what we can develop. I think Ahlstrom has a very strong presence in the packaging market already, because of our global platform and our breadth of technologies that we use in all of our product lines. It gives us the chance to kind of collaborate even within our own company across the different business units we have and the different markets we serve. But it really creates an opportunity for us to share that knowledge and that expertise, which is also one of the goals, really to share what's out there. How do we work together? Educate the market on solutions that are available, educate the market on how you achieve certain requirements for end of life or other sustainability goals, and really just, again, continue to bridge the whole supply chain and create collaboration.
And that goes back to this consumer question you asked too, Michaela, like why educate the consumers? And as consumers, we have to get comfortable with our packaging looking and feeling a little different. I like to share the story of, we were developing a chip bag at one point, like for potato chips, any kind of snacking chips. And there we received feedback. Well, it sounds different. When you open it, it sounds different. It feels different. You might not be able to sneak that midnight snack if you can hear it a little bit more. And I think what we have to realize as consumers is it might look a little different, it might feel different, but if we can take the guesswork out of what to do with that package when it's all said and done, and you can put it immediately into your recyclable bin and you don't have to take parts apart, if you can throw it in your backyard compost pile, these are all impacts you can be making. And you know that perhaps that plastic or film-based chip bag is not going into a landfill and sitting there for years and years. So as consumers, we need to get more comfortable with how are these new solutions going to look and feel, but no, our food is going to be safe. Our things are going to, the things that we need protecting are going to be protected, but I don't have to think about it so much as to what to do with it when we're done.
Thank you. And that touches on one of the topics that I wanted to talk about. In the past decade, as a consumer, you're ordering things online, the packaging comes even more increasingly creative and fiber-based, and you go into the grocery store and the packaging is changing. But there's still, the age-old question, paper or plastic. And I think some people, they're really dedicated to plastic. They have a trust in it because it's been around for a while. And, how are campaigns like From Plastic to Purpose, or even industry challenges, how are you facing those challenges by showing people that you can trust these fiber-based products as an alternative?
I think through lots of different ways. I mean, I think first we would say, plastic does have its relevance in places. I mean, there are applications where plastic should be used, but we also know that there's opportunities and applications where there are other solutions available, and there are maybe more sustainable solutions available. So it's really about, again, understanding what does our customer really want to do, what does the market really want, and how do we tailor and pick the right things to work on that achieve what they're looking for. We don't want to, and quite frankly, it's a huge undertaking to develop the holy grail of, this is a singular source of material that can replace everything today that's plastic, because that's not how plastic works either. So I think understanding the applications, understanding what we're doing, and then really dedicating the resources to those places where we know we can make a difference and we can develop something that's working specifically to what that customer is really trying to do. I think there is some education and just the paper industry in general that we try to do and make sure that everyone understands, when they drive by a paper mill, what do they see and what do they notice, and what is that really? I think to Addie's point, our forest where we live, educating on that we live in our forest, we use our forests. Our forests are hardworking forests that are very sustainably managed for the future. So a lot of that education and knowledge that I think the paper industry is doing in general is also very relevant to the packaging space.
And there's still so much more work to be done too in terms of infrastructure. And this is where, the folks at the Wisconsin Paper Council and all of our partners in the industry across the state, where we can continue to make an impact. We need to continue to look at our recycling infrastructure. We need to continue to look at our municipal composting infrastructures and how are we making that more of a commonplace situation as opposed to just people doing it in their backyards. What can we do to reduce waste to landfill, and how does our industry have an impact on that? So I think there's still so much opportunity and so many conversations to be had. And that's where all of us in the industry can work together on that with the help of folks like you at the Wisconsin Paper Council.
Thank you. And, there's been a lot of talk of sort of this teamwork idea across the industry. And so what do you see in the future? How do you think the industry can work together? How can they learn from Ahlstrom? You're releasing a lot of things online and doing webinars and everything. So how do you want people to interact with you, and how do you want to interact with the industry in the future?
We always say, bring us your ideas. So when it comes to us doing the innovation side of things, we want to work with people all across the supply chain. So even if it's somebody that we maybe traditionally wouldn't have worked with, let's go ahead and bring us your idea. Maybe you have a special coating. Maybe you have a new substrate you want us to play around with. We're kind of cowboys like that. We're not afraid. In fact, oftentimes if a customer brings us something and says, we just don't think this is going to work, that's when we want to do it. We really like trying those challenging applications, pushing our machines, pushing our brains to the limit to see what we can do and invent new things. So I think for us, we're just really excited about having those conversations that we traditionally would not have had. And that's how we're going to even make further changes that we didn't anticipate. So all across the board, we need to be having those more open-ended conversations, whilst obviously still protecting our knowledge and our trade secrets. There's ways to do that, but I think the more open conversations we can have about what do we want this world and this industry to look like, 10 years, 20 years from now, and what kind of impact do we want to make? What kind of purpose do we want to have on making the world a little bit better? Those conversations can only lead to fantastic benefits for the industry as a whole.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned, bringing everything to you, just bring it up. And I think that's sort of one thing with workforce, especially too, that nowadays it's not just the consumer, it's not just the companies, it's the people working in the companies who are looking for these changes to be made. So how are you looking to better yourself within the workforce as well in terms of bringing these opportunities to them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have built into our company is really a deep understanding of technology at all levels. So, we have a corporate R&D team based in France. We have R&D teams that are based within each of our business units, and sometimes at our plants. But then we have our manufacturing teams, including our hourly workforce on the assets, are extremely technical because of the products we make and because of the understanding and requirements that are built into those and the diversity of them. Our paper makers are world class. So we have innovations, we have discussions at all levels in the company to understand what are we doing, how do we use that pool of knowledge that we have and really bring that out and magnify those ideas, those thoughts, that experience that our business has inherently in its resources as people, to really contribute to the innovation that occurs. And then I think as we look at innovation like this, and you mentioned before, it's very consumer facing in some ways, right? When you buy something, you notice now it has a little label that says you can recycle me, and you couldn't do that before. So helping our local cities, our local economies understand the value that we as a company and as an employer are playing in that is very important, because they're seeing that impact. They're seeing, to Addie's point, what are we going to do for the future to be a purposeful, supplier company in the future. And so making sure that we see these benefits, we see the applications that we're able to solve do actually bring some attraction to the industry and help people go, boy, that's a pretty cool place to work. Instead of that's a paper mill that's always been there, they're doing some really neat things that are sustainable and driving for the future. So I think it really helps in all ways to be focused and really dedicated to sustainability and understanding how we do that to better our plants, our business, and society.
Thank you. That's a really great description. I love how you described it as technical. There's so many times when you do think, oh, that's just a paper mill, you're going to be doing manual labor all day, but there's so much more into it, and it's so much more advanced than you would ever think. So I think having conversations like this with businesses like yours, it really helps to spread that awareness. Those are all the questions I had for the day, but do you have any last thoughts before I move on to the outro?
Well, I think, again, we really appreciate all the work that, Wisconsin Paper Council has done to just bring us as an industry, as a Midwest, based forest products industry together. And so I think that's really my call to action to the folks listening and to other people in the industry that are, we all want to do the right thing. We want to do the right thing by our communities, by our employees. Perhaps let's figure out how we can do some even more brainstorming to take some of the work that we've done on the sustainability and in the environmental front, and how do we work together to continue to push that forward. I think, this year, 2023, is going to be really exciting for us as an industry. There's a lot we're all working on, but I think there might be some things collectively we can do to just take this recycling and compostability infrastructure here in the Midwest, and let's start to be the bellwether for what the rest of the nation can do. So I think that's really my call to action going into this new year, and really hoping that that folks can help us in this journey.
And I think also Wisconsin as being the #1 papermaking state in the country, and having a lot of diversity within that framework in the state, I think it creates a really good opportunity for to Eddie's point, for us to continue to work together, even though we're in very different parts of the market. We might be serving different applications. There's still really good ways we can collaborate safely in maintaining our own knowledge and our own business practices, but yet use that kind of relative mass to make those changes in the industry that need to occur. Look at certifications, look at standards, look at what's changing in the world, and make sure the paper industry is staying relevant. And what better state to do that than Wisconsin? And try to use that mass we have.
Thank you. Thank you again to Addie Teeters and Zach Lemcooler for speaking with us today about the paper industry sustainability efforts and Ahlstrom's From Plastic to Purpose campaign. Before we end, I'd like to mention that Ahlstrom has its own podcast with a season on the From Plastic to Purpose campaign, and they cover even more great topics. I believe you can find the podcast through Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon Music. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. And you can visit their website through www.ahlstrom.com. Under the media tab, you can find even more great information. So thank you today. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much, Michaela.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening. For more information on the paper industry or the Wisconsin Paper Council, please visit www.wipaper.org. WPC members have access to special events, newsletters, committees, and more.